Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. We're here to talk about Liga MX title contenders. We're here to talk about the Mexicans in Europe. But before we get into that, before we talk about all those topics, let me first introduce you to today's guest. Over in Philadelphia, we have Jason Markowitz. Jason, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be back on the show, and a lot to talk about with Liga coming up and a team about to go down. So good stuff coming.
Johnny, over in San Diego, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Yeah. The Anaheim Ducks, they swept the series and they moved on to the second round of the NHL playoffs. Second round starts on Wednesday, so there's no game going on today. You guys have my full attention.
I shouldn't be surprised that you brought up something completely irrelevant to soccer. All right, Naib, over in Mexico City. How you doing, Naib?
Buenas noches, César, Jason. Yeah, Johnny as well. Buenas noches. I think it's an exciting time over here in Mexico because of everything that's going on. I mean, the Conca Champions final, the Liguilla is about to start up. Then in June you have the Confederations, and then in July you have the Gold Cup. So it's crazy, the next months.
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy time. Even when I was trying to think of all the stuff I wanted to talk about today, I mean, the list I had, I think, was at first a little too long, and I had to compress it. And we're not even going to bring up stuff like anything regarding the national team or the Gold Cup or the Confederations Cup. It's a crazy time. But for us who, we love to talk about Mexican soccer, it's a great time. Obviously, clearly. So that's good for us. It's clearly good for us.
I did not sign up for none of this El3 talk. We're focused on Liga MX here.
Yeah, we're doing mostly Liga MX and Mexicans in Europe today, but mostly Liga MX. But speaking about Liga MX, we're going to start off the show with that Jason brought up, which I think it'll be kind of fun. Maybe it's going to be terrible. Then we'll all hate Jason. We'll find out. So we thought of this game because I want to talk about the Liga MX title contenders, and what he thought of is for all of us to be given 100 fictional dollars, and we all have to spread apart those dollars and essentially bet on who we think are the title contenders. We're not actually betting actual money because I would probably only bet like a total of, I don't know, like 100 nickels or something.
20 pesos.
Yeah, there you go. Bet pesos, not dollars. But
that's our usual bet.
That is our usual bet when we go watch all those. All right, so guys, you have 100 fictional dollars. You're going to be putting them down on. It could be one team. It could be. I mean, I guess if you really wanted, you could put a little bit on all 18 teams. Guys, how much would you put it down? Jason, we'll go over to you first since you're the one who thought of this game. How much would you put down for each team?
Okay. Well, I think I would start. I think the team that I have the most confidence in, and it has a little bit to do with this weekend, but just in general, the team that I trust the most at this point, I think, is Monterrey, because I think they have probably the best chance of making it to the title game. So I'm going to put half of my money, my fake money, 50 of my $100 on Rayados to take the title. I'm going to take another 20 and put it on Chivas because I think they have another solid chance of making a good run and getting to the title. They've been a little shaky of late, but I still trust them to make a good run in the Liga this year. I'm going to take $19 to break the zeros and the even numbers and put it on Xolos because I still like them. I've liked them since the beginning of the season. I think they have that home field advantage. I think they're going to be a tough out for anybody, so I think they can make a run. And I have that leaves me with $11, and I'm going to spread that still out among two teams because a lot of teams have a chance in Liga MX. So $10 on a team that's probably might not make the Liga, but I still think there's a chance that Tigres make their way in and go all the way to the title. So I'm still saving $10 for Tigres, and that leaves me with $1. And I would like to spend that $1 on Cruz Azul, my preseason title pick, because I've spent $1 in worse ways than that. So $1 for Cruz Azul.
$1. You're saying there's a chance, though. You're saying there's a chance.
Why not? Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, win. I mean, to be serious.
Wow, you made him sound like Dumb and Dumber.
It is pretty dumb. But I will say, when Cruz Azul finally does do this, when they get over this disaster, it's going to be when they have absolutely no justification for winning. It's not going to be one of those teams where they're actually good and they go on and win. It's going to be one of these teams where they're not good at all and somehow they just break it and do it. It's not going to be this year, but $1 for Cruz Azul.
$1 for Cruz Azul. I like it. Johnny, what's your list look like?
I told you I'm still writing mine.
You
get me with money.
Naive, if yours isn't ready, I could go to mine. But Naive is
I think I have $30 on Monterrey. I think the win over Tigres was a good example of how good they can be. Especially if they're able to maintain that defensive stability. I think I got 30 on Xolos. I'm really liking what Piojo Herrera is doing over there, and I know that super leader curse is always present, but I think they learned a lot from that mistake last season. So 30 on Xolos, $10 on America, $10 on Chivas, and I'll leave my last 20 for the winner of the CONCACAF Champions League final, because I think either whoever wins that one, I think will have a good moment to sort of enjoy the title and then go forward, because we're talking about the 8th and 9th place of the table. Pachuca and Tigres have been the best defenses in Liga MX so far. So if whoever wins that final, I think will have a good boost moving forward. Of course, Tigres has a tough match this weekend against Xolos, but I think if they win, they'll be in great shape towards the end of the season.
I think it's interesting that Jason put the most on Monterrey. Now you put the most on Monterrey, and if we're going to go over to me, since I'm going to give Johnny a little bit more time, I put down the most on Monterrey too. Like I put down, I'm spreading it out actually between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm spreading out between 7 teams just because it's Liga MX and you never know who's going to win this. I'm putting down $30 from Monterrey. Basically what you guys just said. And I think when you look at rosters, when you look at how well some of those attacking talents are, it's just you can't look past some of those players on Monterrey's roster. I'm going to put down $20 on Toluca and Xolos. $20 on Toluca just because if there was a season for them to win the title, it seems like this would be the perfect season. And for Xolos, just because of the momentum they've had in place right now, they're the dominant team in Mexico. And then I'm saving $10 each for Chivas, America, and Tigres. Chivas, America, right now they're clearly title contenders as well. And for Tigres, just like Jason said, they don't seem like the strongest team right now in the league, but once they get into the playoffs, you really don't know what's going to happen. And I think we saw that in last season's playoffs where there was something a little similar with Gignac, where he had a little bit of a quiet season, and then here comes the playoffs, and he just exploded. If I remember correctly, did he get a hat trick against Pumas? I think in the quarterfinals. I think it was against Pumas. Did he had a hat trick or 2 goals? But he just exploded in the playoffs. So I think once Tigres sneak in there, you never know what can happen with that team. So Johnny,
yeah, here we go.
Is your list ready? You good to go?
Yeah, let's see what Johnny has.
Yeah. So now my question is: do we get a bigger return for betting on the teams that are less likely to win? Because if so, I'll do a lot of risky bets. If not, I'll stick to conservative bets.
I don't think
there's
so.
actually no returns whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't know if we were clear on this. This isn't actual money. So
all right. Well, here's my picks. I got $2 for Tigres for a team outside of the playoff zone. I got one more than that. I got $3 on America.
$3.
$3 America.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got $10 on León, another team outside of the playoff zone. I got $5 on Chivas, so that's a total of $20 so far. I got $20 on Toluca, and then $30 on Monterrey, $30 on Xolos.
Wow, so you got the most on Xolos this year. So why do you think they're above Monterrey?
Well, I got the same for Xolos and Monterrey.
Oh, you did? Okay. I didn't see it. Sorry. So
got 30 Xolos, 30 Monterrey, 20 Toluca, and then the other 20 are split up between Chivas, León, America, and Tigres.
I think just with this practice here, it's become quite evident that there is no clear front runner. Even though we all, the three of us put Monterrey as the one who we think is most likely win the title. It looks like most of us have chosen multiple teams. Like, yeah, you two, yeah, that's right. Yeah. But it looks like we've all chosen multiple teams, and we're close to the end of the regular season. I think that says so much about the parity in the league. And then Jason mentioned this a while back. Even though Liga MX is unpredictable to begin with, this season feels even more crazy, I guess, than usual.
If we look at our numbers, it's clearly Xolos and we all think Xolos and Monterrey are the finalists. That's very clear by all of our numbers.
That's true, but I don't think I was expecting some of us to be putting in maybe like 60 or 70 towards certain names, as opposed to. I mean, I put down 30 for Monterrey. John, you put down 30 as well. I don't know if anyone's really very confident about certain names, but yeah, it seems like as I mentioned, there's just. And who knows? Maybe some team that we didn't. I mean, no one's really saying that much about Pachuca just yet.
Yeah,
that's
what stuck out to me is that
they haven't scored a goal
on these lists.
Go ahead, Jason.
Pachuca.
I mean, I mentioned the potential of if they win that Conca Champions, Tuzos being on his list, but the rest of us didn't really mention Pachuca. So I mean, obviously with the season they're having, but. It's a bit surprising that there's not a lot of confidence in them, and they look, they could be in it, and certainly with all the weapons they have, but they are a bit of a mess at the moment.
For me, it's very simple with Pachuca. They haven't scored a goal in 6 games. That's a third of the regular season. They haven't scored and without scoring goals, you just can't win games.
No, and I think another team that's in the top 8 that we haven't really given a lot of credit either is it looks like Santos. No one's really been talking about Santos either, and I know that they aren't the most exciting team, but there's also a team that's only had 2 losses so far this season. So I think that's interesting to note.
I mean, I think the thing with Santos also, Cesar, and they got a great win against America, and we'll talk about it later. But is that inability to sort of protect the leads, and that is something you don't want to have come the Liguilla time if you can protect the leagues, because when you play away, that makes a difference. But overall, I think Santos has been a great side to watch. With Chepo de la Torre sort of returning to his old ways. When he was in Toluca and Chivas before the national team disaster, and I think now he's sort of getting back into his mojo. I don't know how far it could go, but of course Santos will be a team to consider once the Liguilla starts.
So a team that cannot protect their lead, but is yet among the top 8. So we're talking about like a quasi-successful version of Cruz Azul.
Wow. All right, guys, let's talk about Cruz Azul. Let's change the topic, but also still talk about Cruz Azul. Cruz Azul, they got a big win over Chivas over the weekend. I don't think any of us could have predicted that would have happened. Cruz Azul with the 2-1 win. They're back to 14th place. I know 14th doesn't seem like it's the most exciting place to be in the Liga MX table, but it's still 3 points behind 8th place, and they're still 6 points up. And Jason, I'm going to go to you on this side. You're the resident Cruz Azul fan, and I want to know: is it realistic, especially after this big win for them and a lot of hope for the playoffs, or this momentum that you could build at the end of the regular season? Before I'm saying can they get the title, I'm going to ask: do you think it's a realistic possibility? It sounds like I'm being offensive to Cruz Azul fans here. Do you think it's a realistic possibility that they can make it to the playoffs this season after this win?
No, I don't. I think just look at the schedule. I mean, they have 2 games left, and they are both on the road. They're going to Pachuca and they're going to León.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are teams. I mean, the positive side, these are teams that are competing for those final spots as well.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the Cruz Azul has not proven that they can get results like that. So I mean, even if they somehow did get those results, it's still a pretty good chance that they don't qualify for the final playoff spot. So no, I don't think it's very realistic. I think that's pretty far fetched at this point. I think Cruz Azul getting a win against Chivas when the pressure is now off and they are basically out of it. Speaks a lot for what we've seen from Cruz Azul lately. They can get wins when the pressure isn't on. So
yeah. Johnny, your thoughts? Do you think there's any chance that they could sneak into the top 8?
Well, the numbers say there is, but no, I agree with Jason. It's very hard like Jason said, they do play against direct opponents, but it's now that you're telling Cruz Azul that there is hope, that they have something to play for. Can they go out and play for it? Like Jason was just mentioning, they seem to play very well when all is lost. When there's absolutely nothing to play for, then they can get a win. Now that there's actually something on the line, it's kind of more feeding into that stigma of the always failing fame that Cruz Azul has picked up.
Yeah, Naib, I mean, I'm going to go over to you about León. I know that's one of the opponents they're going to have to take on. León got a win over Puebla over the weekend. They're now undefeated in 5 matches. Do you think that there's a chance? And they are a little bit closer than Cruz Azul are. Do you think that they have an opportunity here to not only make it to the top 8, but they maybe have a good run in the playoffs?
No, I think, Cesar, with León is interesting because they sort of made it fashionable to sort of close out the season in a high note, and of course, one of their titles in that bicampeonato came in that fashion. They got in the last minute and they ended up winning it all. And they have to deal with injuries. Burdizo was in there. Novaretti has been suspended. Nacho Gonzalez has been injured also. It's been a really inconsistent season for León, but they're right in it. And I think if they are able to beat Chivas, and then they're able to beat Cruz Azul, the possibility is high. Depending on other results that occur in other games. But I think the team is known for these type of moments, that they go into the last minute and they sort of manage to get those wins. Of course, when you look at the paper and you look at the circumstances, Chivas, visiting Chivas after, Copa MX success, now they have a whole week to sort of rest because they've been saying a lot, well, we got to rest. Well, then now Chivas has a whole week to prepare for this match against León. Well, it's difficult, and if they're able to get the win against Chivas, that should propel them to get the win over Cruz Azul at León. But if they lose against Chivas, it's practically over. So it's sort of like how Tigres it will be. Tigres has to win both games. There's no room for error. And that's the same for these teams that are battling for the last spots.
So I forgot whether it was 2 weeks ago or last week when we were giving our predictions for who are going to be the top 8. I know I mentioned León. At that time, they were 4 points away from 8th place. Now they're only 1 point away from 8th place. I think I stick to my original thought. León will be one of the top 8 finishers. I think Pachuca will continue to crash. Pachuca are in it right now. They will definitely not be in it in 2 weeks. And Tigres is the big uncertainty because they too are just 1 point away, just like León. Whatever possibilities León has to get into that playoff, so does Tigres, because Tigres are just 1 point away. But, we don't know what to expect from Tigres. And once we get into the Monterrey Tigres Clásico talk, I'll explain why they're so unpredictable right now. We don't know what to expect.
Well, let's get into that right now, because that was going to be the next thing that I was going to bring up, because that was a big match of the weekend. That was, Tigres' opportunity, after doing quite well it's only for 2 games. And if this was any other Liga MX team, I wouldn't have thought much of it. But because it's Tigres, because they're the current champions, it kind of looked like they're about to pull through, and it looked like if they could have got that win over Monterrey, that would have been a perfect opportunity for them to keep charging through into the playoffs. But as we saw with that Cesar Montes goal, Monterrey was able to get the game winner there. And Tigres, they now have a really tough schedule ahead of them and to try to get into the playoffs. And that's my question to you guys. Well, whether it's about your thoughts on the Clásico Regio or just Tigres, chances for the playoffs, is this it for them? Jason, what are your thoughts on Clásico Regio or Tigres going into these last 2 weeks of the season?
I think they'll be very happy to get Guido Pizarro back. I think it was just a glaring absence in that Clásico Regio. So, I don't know. I still have faith in Tigres making a run and kind of getting it together, but Monterrey really handled them. They really shut down that attack. Yeah. And I mean that score line, I mean it was tight, and Tigres certainly had a couple chances, but I think Monterrey were clearly the better team on the night, and there was a home game for them, and it was a rivalry game. But at the same time, it's worrying how much Tigres were silent, especially that attack, and how much they controlled and controlled the flow of that match, and simply kept their attack so quiet. So I don't know. Moving forward, I'm a little concerned for Tigres, but I still can see them. I mean, just with the team that they have, kind of starting to click again, and just comes down to getting those goals in. But I think Pizarro coming back, and I think there could be something to be said for what Naib mentioned earlier. With that Congo Champions final this week, it could provide a boost. A big result against Pachuca. Gignac pounding in a couple of goals. You don't know what kind of boost that gives them heading toward the last couple games of the season, qualifying for Liga. And I mean, this is a team coming as like an 8 seed. Who knows what they could do? So I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah. Otherwise, Johnny, you're about to give us your thoughts on the Clásico Regio.
Yeah, so the big note that I have here in my notebook was Guido Pizarro, like Jason was saying, because it was very evident against Monterrey that without Guido Pizarro, Tigres were unable to employ their usual game plan of dominating possession, of monopolizing the possession of the ball. And that's kind of the foundation for that big, scary attack. Without the possession of the ball, that big, scary attack becomes very lifeless, like we saw against Monterrey. Monterrey were able to from Tigres, and they controlled the possession in the Clásico Regio. That's why the Tigres attack was very lackluster. That's why Monterrey were able to kind of coast through the game, through the first half, pick out moments when to really put on the pressure on Nahuel Guzman and when to back off and look for the right time and spaces to explode guys like Dorlan Pavón up top. And honestly, Dorlan Pavón should have had minimum 2 to 3 goals. He had two sitters plus a possible penalty that the referee did not call. So Guido Pizarro, Tigres seemed to be in real big trouble.
I felt as if Monterrey also should have had on into the match. They were just because Nahuel Guzman was just so far up, because Tigres were just putting so many numbers forward. They came so close to getting a second or third goal down there. So I'm a little worried about Tigres. I know they have the roster to do well, and they have a lot of depth. So they have a roster to do well in the CONCACAF Champions League's second leg of the final. But I am a little worried of that upcoming match against Xolos. That's not going to be easy, even though Xolos already have a spot guaranteed in the playoffs. But Naib, your thoughts on the Clásico Regio?
I think I certainly agree with Jason and Johnny about the Guido Pizarro absence. I think that does play a role in the final result. But then again, I think also props for Mohamed, leaving Carlos Sanchez and Edwin Cardona on the bench. Yeah. That's a big risk, especially in these type of matches where you need those individualities that can sort of make you some type of magic, like almost Carlos Sanchez did with that long shot that almost went into the goal and knocked. It was a strange shot, how Nahuel Guzman actually was able to not put that in, and he actually took it out with his head somehow.
Naib, for those who don't know, by the way, mention why those two players were on the bench, because I feel like a lot of people were confused on the...
the talk in Monterrey was that it was sort of some type of disciplinary issue there, that, maybe they went against Mohamed's instructions or whatnot. And it's sort of an example that, they're not above the club, that Mohamed has this control over the team that, we saw it in America. I mean, remember in that final when Paul Aguilar was removed from the squad and Ventura Alvarado was set as right back. So he's known to not sort of give privilege to certain players. And that's props to Turco. That's props to Turco. But real quick here, a little bit to just end my point. I mean, I think with Tigres moving forward, I mean, it is unpredictable. I mean, I think Eduardo Vargas is struggling and we want to see him more out of him. Actually, Ismael Sosa starting over Jürgen Damm, and there's debate. Well, I think Jürgen Damm is playing better than Ismael Sosa, but Sosa has been knocking in goals as of late. But it's an experienced squad, So of course, if they enter as 8, they're automatically a team that no one wants to face. That's the excitement of Liguilla. Is like it's a new season, and for them, it will certainly be a whole different season to what they have lived in the past months. Which has been not common for the type of team they have. it's, in my opinion, they shouldn't be in this position, because they have enough players in that squad to, be not cruising, but being at a moderate, level, not being out of the playoff picture,
That's why I still put down 10 of those fictional dollars on Tigres, just in case.
I only put down 2. With Tigres, I think Tuca Ferretti is one of those coaches that he knows there's no value in starting a season out strong, and there's a lot of value in finishing very strong. But I think this time he just cut it too close. I don't think the team picked up the good rhythm and good form. They left it a little too late. They still have a chance, but it's still, I think it's coming down to the wire there.
What will happen? What will happen if Tigres doesn't win the Conca Champions and doesn't make the Liguilla? What does that say about Tuca's tenure? I mean, because I do feel that there are people in Monterrey that might be a bit, might go hard on him, because not winning another international title. This is the 3rd international final since 2015. Ambrice's America beat this Tigres. Yeah. Think about that. Ambrice's America.
I feel the city would be very patient with Tuca, who just won him a title recently. I'm hoping they would be patient with him. It's not like I'm a fan of Tigres. I'm just hoping because of he's representing longer.
The thing with Tigres fans, they're very loyal, and I don't think they would turn on a manager. Also, Tigres are already qualified for the next CONCACAF Champions League. So if they feel undone by this one, they're gonna have that sense of revenge and want to go get that next one, because they're already in.
Yeah, I think there would be a lot of very angry Tigres fans if for some, that'd be shocking to me if they didn't win either title, or if they didn't win the title, the CONCACAF Champions League title, and it didn't make it to the playoffs, if he was then dropped, because that would be very, very shocking, because he's been building up this project for so long, and just like I said, what he represents longevity wise in Liga MX, it's really cool to see. Just when you don't see other managers lasting,
I agree. I mean, he has a lot of power. I mean, I think Tuca is sort of, he could easily be Tuca's face on the Tigres logo, and you would that's gonna stick forever, in my opinion. But it will be interesting to see the reaction. Because if America has that type of steel, no Liguilla, no Conca Champions, everyone shoots on America nasty. They go like, oh, how is it possible? Because Tigres already has a level, I think, in Mexico where, okay, you're reaching the finals, well, win them, and not just reaching the finals and not winning them. So I think it will be interesting to see how everything turns out. But I Tuca will stay no matter what happens, in the following days.
No, I agree. Yeah, no, I most definitely agree. All right, guys, let's go over to another match which had an interesting result, interesting ending, an exciting ending. Santos beating America 2-1. Just what looked like America got a late equalizer. Got a little bit end there. I think it was a 93rd minute with a late, not even like a last minute, like a last second goal by Santos Laguna. Still 3 points away from them. Johnny, you were there. Or not you were there. You were watching. I don't know why you were saying you were there. You were watching the match clearly because you're an America fan.
I was eating birthday cake.
You're eating birthday cake. What? Happy birthday, Johnny. America lost 2-1 to Santos Laguna. Your thoughts on the match?
I think I'd usually be a lot more angry and a lot more disappointing if it wasn't something I've seen coming for a while. I think reality is finally catching up to America. The strength of this squad is very weak. It's not, and I think there's only so much a weak squad like America's can do, and I think they've already overachieved that. So I've kind of seen it coming. With a makeshift defense like America has, there is only so much you can do, and kind of reality is finally setting in.
Jason, your thoughts on the loss for America? Do you agree with Johnny and say that it is a case of them just having a weak roster, or do you think it's just one of those Liga MX results where it's just Santos, they'll get a late game winner at home and it's really not that big of a deal for America?
I mean, I think it is indicative of this team. I don't think the loss necessarily is a big deal, but I think it speaks to the issues with. I agree with Johnny in the roster. I think this America squad is a bit of one in transition at the moment. I don't think it is complete. I think they have a lot of holes. I think they've done pretty well to get the results they have, and I think they can be a dangerous team and maybe knock out a team in the Liga, but I don't think this is a true title contender team. I think they have a lot of holes, and I think Santos exposed some of those holes in that game. Santos has been playing really well, so it's not to undermine them and just say this is a problem with America. I mean, a lot of teams have been losing to Santos lately, and they've been playing some of their best football just recently. So I don't think this was a shocking result by any means, but I do think there are some issues with America, and I don't see them being a real title contender this season.
Yeah, and it looks like they will make the playoffs. It seems like that's, I mean, even though it's not secure just yet, it looks like it's more than likely going to happen. But even those matches against, they have matches, if I remember correctly, it's against Atlas and Pachuca. The Atlas match could be a little tricky just because of the form that Atlas is in. And even the Pachuca match, it could be Pachuca there in the last game of the season, them trying to fight for a spot into the top 8. So there's no guarantee that they'll really be even if they do head into the playoffs, they'll be going in there with some wins in hand. And I think that's important.
Ricardo would tell you that those two games are at the Estadio Azteca and that America has not given up a goal in the Estadio Azteca all season long.
I know, but
those are certain details. I mean,
that's what Ricardo would tell you.
And that's a good point that Johnny brings up. And I think we got to recognize that since La Volpe took over as America's manager, the priorities have been defensive. This is a team that really bolstered its defense since La Volpe's arrival, because before La Volpe with Ambriz, that was probably the main asterisk or the main red mark. It was so weak defensively and free kicks and the run of play. And now with La Volpe, you got this discovery of Edson Alvarez, and his consolidation just keeps growing as the days go by. But it's a team that offensively has very little, and it has very little because there's really not a attack-minded central midfielder, or a central midfielder.
There's no Sambuesa.
Well, yeah, there's no Sambuesa. There's no Osvaldito. Osvaldito Martinez actually played a great game yesterday with Santos, and maybe America could need that because that's experience. Relying on Diego Lainez, who's 16 years old, is not good. It's not a good idea, but that's what America has left because Cecilio Dominguez is out injured. And look, Darwin Quintero is back, but it's not like Darwin Quintero has been constant or consistent with America. It's not a remedy for what America needs right now. And all of that America's developing from is mainly heart and garra and lucha, which is Peralta. It's Peralta, no? Peralta is picking up. He has 7 goals right now. Peralta could actually finish the season as the league's top goal scorer if everything if it can work out well, And I think it's a confusing state for America because look, last season I remember when they played against Chivas in the Liguilla, I think Chivas was the favorite, because they closed at home and because we were saying America doesn't have anything up front. Where are they going to score the goals? And all of a sudden, William Da Silva scores like 3 or 4 goals in the Liguilla, and you're like, how the heck does those goals happen? And I think now again, that's the danger that this America can bring in the Liguilla, especially if Renato Ibarra's back and Darwin Quintero, that's something.
Right now, Peralta is scoring the goals. He's the striker, but like you said, there's not much creativity coming behind Peralta. Right now, all of the creativity is the 16-year-old kid who still lacking experience. I mean, this is no fault of his. This is not a Lainez fault, but he just does not have that first division smartness to him. He does not have the wits. All he does is grab the ball and just runs forward and hits a brick wall every time he gets a hold of the ball. I mean, 1 or 2 times he'll get past a couple defenders and everybody will think he's the next Messi. But the reality is he does not have the experience to be playing first division. And the only other option for creativity is Miki Arroyo, who does not have the full confidence of the manager. I think Arroyo would be a lot better if he had a little bit of job security. If the manager would put his faith in him, I think Arroyo could be doing a lot better.
Yeah, and interesting to see how America finishes his regular season, especially with those problems that they'll have up top, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get, I'm going to say they get like a low-scoring win and then a draw, and then they sneak into the playoffs as expected. But let's look at the other side of the table. Let's look at the relegation race. I really say 3, but I have to say 4 because Puebla are still technically in the relegation race. We have Puebla, we have Veracruz, Chiapas, Morelia. And I'm going to go to you guys, and this could be just with those 4, which one, and you guys just tell me one team and perhaps some reasons why. What team do you think is with Jason? Which of those 4, which team do you think is going to go down now after some of the results over the weekend?
It's hard to say. I mean,
it's tough. It is tough. Yeah.
I mean, 2 points separating the 3 teams. I'm not really including Puebla in this, but like, I don't know. Like, I still probably think it's going to be Veracruz.
Yeah.
I think they have probably the toughest remaining 2 matches. They're 2 points above Morelia at this point, but they host Monterrey and then they travel to Tijuana. So, two tough matches. I don't see points in either one of those, and I could see Chiapas maybe picking up a point. I mean, Chiapas, Santos at home and then traveling to Atlas is not going to be easy for them either, but I could see them getting possibly a point, maybe even a win somewhere there. And Morelia hosting Pumas this coming weekend, I think, is a good chance for them. The way Pumas are kind of going off the rails a bit, Morelia, a good chance to get some points there, and then traveling to Monterrey for the last game. So I still think it's going to be Veracruz, although I have just about 0 confidence in that pick at this point.
Yeah, really quickly, just to go through who they're going to be playing. So Puebla they have to take on Necaxa and Pumas. Veracruz have to take on Monterrey and Xolos. Chiapas have to take on Santos and Atlas. And Morelia, down at the very bottom with 112 points. They're going to be taking on Pumas and Monterrey. Naib, your thoughts on these? I was about to say title contenders. These are most definitely not title contenders. These relegation, contenders, relegation candidates.
Well, watch Morelia get in the Liguilla. Watch Morelia get in the Liguilla, and then it's a title contender.
Yeah.
No. But I mean, it's been a strange relegation race because. Look, Chiapas started the season off stupendously. I mean, wins against Chivas, America, Tigres, and you were like, oh, shoot, this might actually be something special. And then it just...
Everyone was calling they were the Robin Hood of Liga MX.
Yeah. And it was quite special to see. And now it's just a disarray. And with other teams, I think right now the advantage is sort of for Morelia, because as we saw the schedules, and all that, even though they're at the bottom, they're still able to get some wins there and some points. The one that might be struggling is Veracruz. Mm-hmm. But the thing with Veracruz is they've been doing good with Luna as coach. Once Reynoso left Veracruz, everything seemed to get a little bit leveled, at least, with the lineup. And, players are scoring. Veracruz hadn't gotten an away win since 2015, and they got it against Pumas. This Sunday, and Pumas at Ciudad Universitaria had been strong. So it tells you a little bit about the spirit in the team. And I think when you're in a relegation race, you want to have some type of spirit in the team. And right now, it's just difficult to say. If we're talking about spirit, Chiapas would be relegated. But it doesn't work that way. You just don't know.
Chiapas fought back from.
That's true. But it's Querétaro, though. Querétaro is weak.
Here, I think Morelia will be safe. Take a look at some of the results for Morelia this season. They beat Xolos, the current league leaders. They beat them 2-0. Morelia has tied against Chivas, 0-0. Tied against Cruz Azul at the Estadio Azul. Tied against Pachuca. They've also beaten the direct relegation candidates. They beat Chiapas. They beat Veracruz. I think Morelia has won the games they needed to win, and they seem the most likely to be able to pick up points here and there, like against Pumas, like Jason was mentioning. So I think they might be safe. My pick used to be Veracruz until they beat Pumas, honestly, because that was a big win. I think now Chiapas are the favorites to go down for my liking.
Yeah, for me, it's between Veracruz and Chiapas. I think with Morelia, I think that match against Pumas, It's gonna be a huge opportunity for them, especially after Pumas just falling apart in that last match where they went down the 9 players. And Veracruz, I mean, here's like Veracruz. They have, I think, even though that win they had recently was massive for the team and significant for the team, I think of all 4 candidates, I think they have the toughest schedule. Going up against Monterrey is going to be easy, regardless of the fact that they've qualified already for playoffs. And I think with Chiapas, I think we still have to mention them just because even though Santos and Atlas aren't nearly as tough as Monterrey or Xolos, I mean, Santos Atlas, those are 2 teams that are still fighting for playoff positioning. And if all this relegation race comes down to goal differential, because we brought this up last week, if 2 teams are tied with the same amount of points, and I don't mean just points this season, I mean over the last 6 tournaments over the last 3 years, and right now there's a 2-point difference between Veracruz. Chiapas is right in the middle with 113. Then it'll come down to goal differential, and Chiapas has the worst goal differential by far. So I think that's something to keep in mind too, where they could get relegated because of that awful goal differential.
So with Veracruz, like Nate was saying, how they're playing better with Cabezon Luna as their coach. They're playing at home against Monterrey. Veracruz has usually been played very well at home. You don't think a draw at home? They're capable of a draw at home.
It's fair to take Monterrey lightly. It's Monterrey. This is Monterrey. I know Monterrey's had their problems in the past, but this is still...
Monterrey. That's the thing with Monterrey as well. No, the away games are not the same as the home games. That's been a common theme with Monterrey. But I do agree. I mean, I just think. I think Veracruz is the one that, as much, I'm a big fan of Luna. I mean, great guy, but it looks like Veracruz might be the one relegated. And look, the thing with Veracruz is just the whole system there. The whole club is just out of control.
I wish it was Veracruz. I wish it was Veracruz just so that it could be because of karma. But now, looking at the results from this weekend, I'm going to have to put my money on Chiapas.
And real quick, something that we haven't mentioned. I mean, I think these games that involve these 3 teams should be at the same time, because I find it unfair that, they're played at different times. And this is really, your club is at stake. You don't want to give that much advantages. And I think that's a decision for the federation. I mean, I know that, TV networks here have a power or a say. But they have to.
No, that's the point now. Yeah, there's no indication that those game schedules are going to change at all. That is something that should happen, but it's not going to happen.
As it is, it's already a huge mess with the TV schedules. I mean, we'll go on a Saturday and there'll be 4 games on at the same time, and this is without them trying to take into consideration what's going on in relegation, what's going on at the top of the table. So I think if you would just confuse them. The federation executives even more. It's too much for their little brains to handle.
Hopefully none of them are watching right now. Jason, any final thoughts on the relegation race before I go over to the Mexicans in Europe?
I suspect we'll have little to no clarity with this weekend, and it'll all to play for in the final weekend. So it should be exciting.
No, it should be fascinating. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be, for all of you watching, like, because it's going to be insane, not only for the positioning in the top 8, because that is very, very close too, but these teams are going to be fighting for salvation. It's going to be crazy. All right, guys, so let's go over to the Mexicans in Europe. Let's talk really quickly about a certain player named Marco Fabian, who scored 2 goals over the weekend. And even though that's noteworthy enough, this is a guy who also scored twice in his previous 2 matches. So he now has 4 goals since returning from his back injury. Marco Fabian, who honestly, when he first went over there, he had some problems making it even onto the bench sometimes, and it seemed like manager Niko Kovac wasn't that, confident of him in the starting 11. But now Niko Kovac is giving him a lot of praise. Guys, thoughts on Marco Fabian, who seems to be on the rise right now in Europe? And I know it's only a short amount of time that he's been scoring these goals, but this is after... I don't know, it seems like he's had to overcome a lot. So I just want to hear any of your guys' general thoughts on Marco Fabian and what he's been able to achieve in recent weeks. I guess I'll have to choose. Naive. Naive.
Okay.
Your thoughts on Marco Fabian?
Yeah. I mean, I think with Marco, his season has been, I think, impeccable. Because of what he's gone through. The injury. There was questions on whether he was going to succeed over there. And look, when I think about Mexicans in Europe, we do have to do a separation. And I know it's not fair, but the players that are in Bundesliga, Serie A, and La Liga, those are in one place, and the ones that are in Netherlands and Portugal, those are in another place. Because the level of the league is way different. The intensity is way different. The type of opponents they're playing against is way different. So when I see, for example, Marco Fabian succeeding in Bundesliga, I see Reyes in La Liga and Jonathan Dos Santos. Those are great stories. Chicharito has been on and off. Let's admit it. It hasn't been a great season for him. He's had injuries. He's had scoring droughts, but he's in the Bundesliga. Salcedo came back, this week as well in Serie A and got an assist. And I think that is also important to note. And I think that helps, that Fabian is getting the minutes. He's making the best out of it. And it's a competitive league. When you see Portri, for example, with Herrera, Layun, and Tegatito, not even in the 11. I know Tegatito has injuries and all that, but Herrera, I thought, he's not playing in the league. He's not starting, and he's a captain. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, if you're in Portugal, you got to play. The same with Raul Jimenez. If you're in Portugal, you got to be a starter. I mean, that's the max. If you're a bench in Portugal, something is not right. In the Netherlands, with Guardado and Moreno, we see the consistency since, they arrived there. But it's the Netherlands. It's like college soccer, kind of, but in European level.
Yeah.
But that's how I look at it. I wish those were in another teams that were more competitive, and hopefully we see that from Moreno and Guardado. But you gotta judge it from there because the leagues are different.
Yeah. Before I go over to Jason or John, I think that's interesting that you brought up comparing Guardado and Moreno. Some players in Eredivisie to Fabian. This is actually a conversation I had recently with the Colorful Kit, where we were just sharing some stats on the players, and of course, for the Mexican national team. But for Fabian to be doing what he's doing in the Bundesliga, I mean, it's just a world of a difference in comparison. As much as like Guardado, and I really respect him as a player, and he's probably my favorite Mexican national team player, just to see Fabian doing that in the Bundesliga in comparison to Eredivisie is just, I think it's very noteworthy. Johnny, your thoughts on? I know you were a little hesitant at first when Fabian went over there. Your thoughts on his form recently?
Yeah, it looks like my prediction is going to fall short. He will not be back for the Apertura 2017 season.
Is that it? No, nothing more, nothing more, nothing less. I guess that kind of felt good for me to hear you say that. I think John just muted himself. He might just leave the podcast if we continue talking about Marco Fabian. Jason, your thoughts on Marco Fabian?
No, it's just good to see. I mean, he started the season so well and was on that run.
Yeah,
I think like a part of me kind of feared it was kind of just a one-off kind of flash in the pan kind of thing. So it's good to see that consistency. Like he came back from the injury and he's kind of established himself again and making an impact with the club. So it's great. I mean, now's the time for him. He's 27 now. Like it's now or never for Fabian, and the pressure's on and he's doing it. So it's fantastic. And, we've known as Mexican soccer fans, at least some of us have, that he's had the ability. I mean, he's had tons of ability. And, I mean, he did get stuck in Liga MX a little too long.
Yeah.
But now he's there and he's the age and he's doing it, and it's great. And moving toward the national team, he could be that important piece once again for the Mexican national team because he is a dynamic player and he has a wide skill set, so he can fit in a lot of different positions, and he could be important this summer.
Yeah, no, I highly agree. Even if he doesn't become a key player in the Confederations Cup, maybe he'll go over to the Gold Cup. Maybe he'll get at least at the Gold Cup he'll be playing an exciting role. But I do fully anticipate to see him in the Confederations Cup.
Real quick on the point about saying that Moreno and Guardado and then the ones that are in Portugal. I mean, it's not disrespect. It's just that you got to see the levels. I mean, there's levels, and when usually players from Portugal do well in Portugal, and then they move to the bigger leagues.
Yeah,
and the same from Netherlands, they move to the other bigger leagues. I mean, that's how it works. That's how the process sort of works. You see the youngsters getting those numbers in Portugal and Netherlands, and then they move up. The thing here, for example, with Guardado, it went backwards. He was in Spain, and then he went to the Netherlands. When Moreno is also, it was it's a strange case with Moreno, because he arrived to the Eredivisie, he did well with Louis van Gaal, then he moved to Espanyol, and you thought that after Espanyol he was going to move somewhere else, but he had that injury in 2014 that we have to recognize. But it is worrying, with Herrera, with Layun, and them not having, with Raul Jimenez, them not having a strong season. But that's what Mexico has. And, with Osorio, I think they'll be filled with confidence moving forward, hopefully.
And the one that troubles me the most, I think, is Raul. I mean, because I think he has the talent to play. I think he's stuck in a situation, Benfica, where he just has these two players in front of him that he just can't get past, and it's understandable because they have the forwards that work for them, and I think Benfica sees him as an important cog, an important piece. But for Mexico and for Mexico fans, we need to see him playing because there aren't a plethora of forwards with the ability of Raul. And if he was playing every week, even in at the Portuguese level, I think it would be very important for him and important for Mexico. And I still believe that this is a player that can move up to the next level, even past that. But we can't see that because he's just not getting the minutes. And it's that for me is the most disturbing one.
Yeah. America will give Raul the minutes. He's got a home at America. Yeah.
No thanks.
No, I think that's important. What you guys just brought up is just I mean, now you brought that, like how certain players almost felt like they took a step back. And I know Raul Jimenez he's a couple years younger than, Guardado, Moreno, but it was a little disappointing at first for him to make the leap from Spain to Portugal. And then once he was in Portugal, you're like, all right, he has the number 9 jersey. He's going to do very well for Benfica. He's going to stand out, and then he's going to move to a bigger club. And a lot of this has to do, we have to remember with Raul Jimenez, he has had some injury problems this season. And I think the injury problems, a lot of the reason why he hasn't been able to be at least a backup option on the bench, even though he was on the bench over the weekend. But I think that's something to keep in mind with Raul Jimenez. But really quickly to go through with some of the other highlights from the weekend, because it actually was kind of a decent weekend for the Mexicans abroad. Not all of them, but for some. We had Jonathan Dos Santos, who had an assist for the game winner for Villarreal. We had Carlos Salcedo, who's just been seemed like he was rotting on the bench for Fiorentina. He got an assist in the 5-4 win for Fiorentina over Inter. And then we did just mention Guardado Moreno. They took part in the 1-0 win for PSV over Ajax. The only unfortunate thing was Chicharito. He's back from injury, but Bayer Leverkusen continue to show problems. And I mean, they're not going to get relegated. Bayer Leverkusen definitely not going to get relegated, but they're making their way down there. They're pretty close to the bottom of the league table. Ochoa, I mean, luckily he's on loan over in Granada. And Granada, it looks like it's just inevitable that they're going to be demoted. He made 10 saves over the weekend, but his team still lost 2-0 to Sevilla. And then, of course, Portri, Tecatito had an injury problem, and then Herrera and Layun were on the bench. Herrera got some minutes in the second half, but Porto got a 0-0 draw. Guys, before we go over to really quickly to finish the show with the second leg of the CONCACAF Champions League final, any thoughts on any of the Mexicans abroad?
No, we'll see how Chicharito ends the season. I mean, I think that's important, especially with the busy summer that's ahead. And then, of course, what will happen, if he's going to stay in Bayer Leverkusen or what's the deal there. There's always that presence of that, nice MLS offer for any of the Mexican players in Europe. Yeah. And who knows what could happen, someone could land in MLS this summer.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Ochoa if Granada are going down. The positive news is you see that, I don't know if you guys saw the video, what the Granada training sessions look like under Tony Adams now with his dance moves and stuff. But check that out if you haven't seen it, because at least he'll have some interesting experiences that he's getting.
Jason, definitely check that out. Tony Adams' dance moves on the sideline during training. Johnny, any final thoughts other than Raul Jimenez potentially making his way over to America, as you would like.
Yes. So we'll leave Raúl to America for some other day. My next thought would be Layun to America.
Oof, no, man. He could still do well. He could still do well in a league. Not even. He could still do well in Spain. He could still do
great at America. He could do well over there. He could do great at America.
He's got that passport. He's not coming back. No.
Yeah, no. We need Layun out there. All right, guys. Let's wrap up the show with your thoughts on the second leg of the CONCACAF Champions League final. Tigres got a 1-1 draw with Pachuca at home in the first leg. The second leg is this Wednesday. Pachuca will be hosting. Naib, give us your thoughts on that second leg. Maybe we can anticipate, maybe even a prediction of what you think will happen.
Well, as I analyze the whole, certain events that have been going on with both clubs, I mean, it looks like a game that could end in penalties, and it's something that favors Tigres, I think, because they probably have the best penalty stopper in the whole league, and Nahuel Guzman. And I think that's what Tigres will be shooting for, actually. They're going to go to Pachuca. They're going to, I'm not going to say sit back, but they're going to be really organized in the back, and they're going to ride it out, see if they can find a good counter with Dam or Aquino or Ismael Sosa on the break, because I think since Pachuca will be at home, they'll have the possession of the ball. And I think that's where Tigres will have to be able to control all of the events that happen on the pitch, especially control all the tempest or the attack that might come from Pachuca. But I do see this game going to penalties because it's two of the best. Is it two best defenses currently in the Clausura? So defensively speaking, they're almost not perfect because nothing's perfect, but they're almost right there hitting on the spot. And of course with Tigres, if they got Guido Pizarro back, that just changes a lot of the panorama of things, And I think he'll be back. He'll play with a mask probably, but the guy is not going to miss that opportunity because I do feel that Tigres is desperate, for this international title, especially because of the investment they've done. And Pachuca as well, Pachuca shooting for their 5th Conca champions. And, they've been thinking about this game for a year or so. But, like Johnny was saying earlier on the show, I mean, this team hasn't been scoring goals. And if you don't score the goals, especially against Tigres, you're gonna pay. You're going to pay the consequences. I mean, they were really lucky with that goal that Dedito Lopez scored because it bounced off Vargas. But that's how the goal came. We'll see how that happens, but I do see this one heading to penalties.
Yeah, Jason, your thoughts on the CCL final?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we're in for that kind of match, that low-scoring kind of slog. Very tactical, slow-moving ball kind of thing going on with this one. I have a little more confidence in Tigres, despite the fact that they're on the road. I realized that the first match was in the Volcan. Just watching those two teams play each other, I think Tigres looked the more likely consistently to score the goals, and I kind of expect the same. I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals here, but I think if anyone's going to break through, I think it's going to be Tigres. But I could see it being that low-scoring, tension-building throughout, and it could very well. I wouldn't be surprised, like Naive said, it goes down to penalties. It wouldn't be surprising, but I have a little more faith in Tigres pulling it out.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking too. Johnny, your thoughts on the CCL final? We're going to be seeing like we've been saying, just a low scoring, a little bit of a draw there.
I think Tigres wins this one 1-0. I don't think they'll sit back. I disagree with Naive there. I think Tigres are going to go try and establish their possession game, their dominance over the ball, and really aggressive, but wait for the right time to strike, but with the ball at their feet. I think that's what their game plan is going to be, at least. And yeah, Pachuca's attack, I can't see them causing too much trouble on such a solid defense like Tigres is. The Pachuca attack has been so weak lately, and the Tigres defense is always very solid. So I can't see much happening there. I think Tigres wins it 1-0.
The thing to point out here in this game is that Pachuca hasn't lost in Estadio Hidalgo since 2016. It was actually a cup game against Atlético San Luis, and they haven't lost a league game since 2015, November 2015, against Tomás Boy's Cruz Azul. So Estadio Hidalgo is a bunker for Pachuca, and it's just it's right now it seems inconceivable to see them lose a game there. And that's why I think about like a 0-0 and then they write it out all the way to penalties.
Well,
that's sort of the way that I think Tigres can end up winning.
Pachuca has the away goal advantage.
Yeah. So I mean, there you go. I mean, like I said, I mean, the last results. There's been 4 0-0s this season in Estadio Hidalgo. Chivas got a 0-0. Puebla, Morelia. I forget the other 0-0 who it came against. But they've gotten a lot of scoreless draws in Estadio Hidalgo this season. So, like I said, I mean, it's something that could happen of that sort.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. I kind of agree with all of you. I don't think we're going to be seeing very many goals. These are two teams who could do very well defensively. I'm going to go with Tigres barely sneaking past Pachuca. I'm going to say it's a 1-0 win. I think that's. I think Johnny said that too. I think. I'm not sure if Tigres will be as attack-minded as we think they'll be. I don't know if they'll really get a chase a win. I think they'll be okay absorbing pressure every now and then from Pachuca. But as we've seen from Pachuca's attack, I mean, there's really been nothing much to say about Pachuca's attack. But I'd say Tigres narrowly sneak past them, and I think that will give an opportunity for a strong finish to the regular season. All right, I'm actually do one more thing before we leave. I want each of you to tell me one thing to look forward to this week, whether it's from the Mexicans in Europe, whether it's from maybe even just even the Mexicans in MLS, or just Liga MX in general. Give me one thing that you give me. Jason's already shaking his head now. Give me one thing to look forward to that the fans should look forward to in Liga MX. So I'm going to go over. Johnny, you tell me, what is one thing fans should be looking forward to?
I think Xolos will kill Tigres' playoff hopes.
Oh, all right. That'll be a fun game to watch. Jason?
Chivas hosting Leon. Leon making that push. I think these two teams always give us interesting matches, so I think it'll be a good one as well. Yeah,
that'll definitely be a game to watch. And then Naib, to finish up the show, what should we keep an eye on?
I like those two games. I mean, I think those two games that Jason and Johnny brought up, I think will be ones to watch. And I mean, Cesar, you mentioned something about Mexicans and MLS. I mean, Cubo's season has been going well. And Giovanni's season Giovanni's having a hard season. It was a really, really strange start for the Galaxy. And so the heat is on for Giovanni, as this sort of the main player there, one of the designated players. And you expect good numbers from him, and they're not coming. So it will be interesting to see how he handles this situation. And you never know. Maybe Giovanni becomes the Rafa Marquez 2.0 of MLS history.
and he ends up at America.
And he probably ends up at America, Johnny. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you everyone who watched us. Thank you everyone who was on the YouTube chat.
What about you?
Me? What to look forward to? I'm looking forward to. I'm actually going to be missing out on the second leg of the CONCACAF Champions League final. I'm going to be taking part in literary trivia instead because I need a night off. I need a night off. I can't be doing soccer all the time.
Take night off tomorrow.
That's just how I'm going to end the show right here. No, I think I agree with Johnny. I think the Xolos match is going to be a big one. Obviously, because I've been following Xolos all season. That's always a little bit for me, especially with the team that's currently in first place and against a team like Tigres, who really need to be pushing for a playoff spot. So that's something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. But I'm going to say Tigres versus Xolos. That's what I'm going to be focusing on. All right. So once again, thank you to everyone who watched the show. Thank you to everyone who just found out that I'm not going to be watching the Champions League final. Sorry, I was a little lazy. I wasn't actually looking at the YouTube chat. Usually I should be moderating that. So hopefully none of you said anything terrible. I hope not. Could have been making fun of me or something.
Since that chat room just hammered on Weasel for the Mexico 2026 World Cup bid, Weasel has not been back.
Oh, that's right. Weasel's afraid to come back. He's just going to be hanging.
Weasel took a break. Yeah, after that pounding he took in the chat room, he took off that show. You had to host the second half, and he hasn't been back since.
Yeah. All right. Well, he said he's going to be back next week, or maybe we'll see me here again. We'll see. But thank you, everyone. And we'll see you all next week, and I'll see you guys around.
We'll have the Bruja Zulema in the next show.